The iconic Red River Valley near Camborne was for hundreds of years a hotbed of tin mining and tin streaming from virtually its source right down to the sea. The last of these sites was abandoned in the 1970s, and nature started to claw them back, and the valley became a rich mosaic of wetland habitat. The contaminated soils, full of heavy metals, prevented rampant vegetation from dominating the valley, and many pioneering species of wildlife persisted for far longer than they usually would, meaning species like the scarce blue-tailed damselfly have persisted for decades rather than just a few short years. Great Wheal Seton is one of the last remaining of the sites that made the valley such a unique haven for wildlife, with its settling tanks, leats and pools having areas of still water, flowing water, shallow water, deep water, water with lots of vegetation, and water with very little vegetation. Truly a diverse wetland habitat. Sadly, Great Wheal Seton now faces a major threat to its long-term future and viability as a wildlife habitat, with a development threatening to bring disturbance and destruction right up to the boundary of the reserve. So Great Wheal Seton is part of the Red River Valley Local Nature Reserve, and it was really important for dragonflies. It has an outstanding assemblage of dragonflies and damselflies. There are 18 species recorded here, including breeding scarce blue-tailed damselflies, which are nationally declining, and they're also nationally scarce. The small red damselfly is also here breeding, and that's a nationally scarce species and also declining nationally. But we also have things like emerald damselflies, which are declining nationally, but also the emerald damselfly has recently been designated as being on the IUCN Red list, and similarly the moorland hawker, previously known as a common hawker, that's also now on the IUCN red list. Here today to do a little bit of drone filming of the Dragonfly Key site, which is the old tin stream settling tanks here, but also the other side of the river. There's a proposed development taking place. The site has been cleared over the last 2 years ahead of seeking planning permission. And so any wildlife value it did have is now gone. Here we are above what is a county wildlife site designated by the Cornwall Wildlife Trust. It has a degree of protection in the planning system. So as you can hopefully see, there is a bare muddy pile of earth that's encroached into the county wildlife site there. And that was one of the last things to be done over on this site when it was being cleared. a lorry arrived on site with spoil. It was tipped up and then taken over to this area in a little dumper truck and tipped over the edge. So there was a drop there, and this earth is starting to fill it in. So at the base of that drop there was an area of marshy ground, a few scattered pools, and this supported a colony of small red damselflies, the same as the actual Great Wheal Seton site did within the local nature reserve. So it is a definite loss. Looking further afield, you can see on the rest of the site that some areas are looking bare and muddy. They're more recent tips from the developer, or more recent scrapes from the developer. The county wildlife site started to be filled in July of 2024. Where you see on this patch of ground, you can see green, that's just where grass brambles have grown since. Areas that have been recovering slightly since being first bulldozing, I think it was winter of 2023. The whole site has been pretty much bulldozed, but some of it has recovered a little bit, but not of any great benefit to wildlife, as the ecological report suggested. But all the ecological reports were after the site had been bulldozed. The reason why this is a problem is because firstly, county wildlife sites are being destroyed, even though they're outside the local nature reserve, but also the fact that this wildlife corridor is shrinking, and as a wildlife corridor shrinks, it becomes less viable as a habitat in its own right. So you start losing species, and then the species that remain, the populations get less viable.
The proposed development on Tolvaden side of the Red River will put enormous pressure on the Great Wheal Seton section of the Red River Valley Local Nature Reserve, one of the last remaining fragments of the reserve where nature thrives in all its forms. These species survive here because the Red River rescuers work hard to protect and enhance their habitat. The UK is one of the most nature-depleted countries in Europe, so maintaining and expanding areas of habitat like the Red River Valley is vital for our wildlife. We cannot afford to let these areas shrink. We must give our nature the space to breathe. Thank you for listening.